The last dragon of the wind sea, the wind that sang. Long ago, before the clouds had names and the stars ceased their listening, there lived a sea that hovered not beneath the world, but above it. They called it the wind sea. It was not made of salt and foam like other seas, but of swirling air, glimmering mist, and river-wide streams of water that danced across the sky. Islands floated on invisible currents, and the people who lived upon them traveled not by roads, but by sail wings and sky gliders. And at the heart of it all were the dragons. Not the dragons of flame and fury told in harsh-edged tales, but dragons of wind, water, and song. They sang to the clouds and shaped the weather with a sigh. They taught birds how to dance on the air and children how to listen. But the world changed. As stories grew quiet and the hearts of people turned toward iron and stone, the dragons began to vanish. Some flew beyond the clouds, never to return. Others turned to skystone and drifted into sleep. And one by one, their songs were forgotten, until only one remained. Her name was Asari. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Every like helps us grow, and having you here means the world, so don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to stay part of the journey. Let's now dive into the story deeply. Kai, the listener. Far from the drifting cities and floating markets, on a mossy island that spun gently with the tide of the sky, lived a boy named Kai. He was not like the others. While most children played with wind skates and thunder toys, Kai would sit for hours atop a cliff, eyes closed, listening to the air. They called him the Storm Child. He had no mother or father, at least none that anyone remembered. They said a sky quake had swallowed them long ago and spit him out like a shell onto the beach of their island. He was raised by an old sky fisher named Nalu, who taught him how to mend nets and bait wind lures. But more importantly, Nala taught him how to listen. The wind remembers things we forget, Nala would say. It carries the whispers of wings and old songs. Kai believed him, deeply, and sometimes when the sky was especially quiet, Kai would hear something strange in the wind, a sound like a sigh or a song without words. A voice not meant for human ears. He never told anyone, until the night the sky cracked. A glimpse in the storm. It began with a skyquake, not uncommon in the wind sea, but rare enough to send ripples through the floating islands. The clouds split like fabric, and lightning stitched jagged patterns across the sky. Kai stood alone on the ridge above his village, watching the storm roll in. And then he saw it. A shadow moved through the lightning. Long serpentine, with wings that shimmered like oil on water. A dragon. For a moment it hovered, silent, vast, beautiful. And then it sang, not with a voice, but with wind and pressure and color. The sound struck Kai like thunder in his ribs. It wasn't pain. It was recognition. The dragon vanished into the mist, but its song remained echoing in Kai's blood. When the wind stops. The next morning, the island no longer drifted. It was unheard of. Floating islands always moved, carried by the tides of the wind sea. But now the air was still, dead as stone. Birds circled aimlessly. Sky ships hung heavy in the air. The council gathered in the dome tower. Kai stood at the edge of the crowd, heart pounding. "It's her," he whispered. "She's dying." The council laughed. "Dragons are myths," scoffed Elder Shun. "The wind is simply changing." But Nala believed him. That night, under starlight, Nalu pulled a weathered feather from beneath his robe. It shimmered faintly, even in darkness. "You saw her," Nala said. "She sang to you. You must find her." Kai didn't ask how. He just nodded. Into the mist. Kai built a glider. It took days. He used whalebone for the frame, feather glass for the wings, and stitched the sail from sky silk and kelp fiber. The villagers watched him work, but said nothing. The windless days had made them quiet and afraid. On the 7th morning, Kai stood on the cliff with the glider strapped to his back. Nalu handed him a compass, not one of iron, but a crystal orb filled with dragon dust. "Follow the currents that don't move," Nala said. "That's where she waits." Kai leapt. The wind caught him. The graveyard of wings. Days passed. The sky grew thick with fog. His food ran low. The stars no longer showed. And then he saw it. A massive field of bones suspended in the air. skeletons of dragons, tangled like a spiral staircase of sorrow. Some large as islands, others small as boats. And in the center of it all, wrapped around a crumbling cloud reef, was her. Asari. Her body glowed faintly, like moonlight behind a curtain. Her eyes were closed. Her breath came in gusts. Kai landed gently. He approached on shaking legs. "I heard your song," he whispered. One eye opened. She did not speak, but the wind around them stirred, forming words. Then carry it. A sudden gust lifted him into the air. The dragon's wings unfurled, and she sang. It wasn't a song. It was a storm. It entered him, filled his lungs, wrapped around his soul. Every note, every breath, every gust of her memory flowed into him. And when it was done, she faded. Her body became mist. Her final breath swirled into his chest. Kai fell to the reef, glowing. Return of the Windbearer. He returned on winds that no glider could catch. His wings moved with thought. The air obeyed him. Villagers came running. The island began to drift again. Birds sang, but the council resisted. Elder Shun ordered the island be anchored. Stone chains were forged. The skies darkened. Kai stood before the tower. "She is not gone," he said. "She is in me." The chains broke, not by force, by wind. A great gust, summoned by Kai's voice, lifted the island and set it free. Even Elder Shun watched with awe. The girl who flew with birds. Days later, a figure soared beside Kai. A girl, riding a hawk the size of a sailboat. Mela, the bird whisperer. She had heard the song too, and she had followed. Together, they traveled the wind sea. They helped lost islands find their path. They taught the children how to sing to the air. They became windbearers, the island that remembers. One day, they found an island made of glowing moss. When they stepped upon it, the ground lit with the memory of dragon wings. Visions danced in the air, children playing with serpentine giants. Laughter and song. The golden age of the sky. Kai knelt. "They are not gone," he said. "They are waiting to be remembered." The moss pulsed gently beneath his palm. The last song. Years passed. Kai grew older. His hair turned silver like wind frost. Mela became a teacher. The wind sea flourished. Before he passed in a mist, Kai sat upon the same cliff where his journey had begun. Children gathered around. "Are there still dragons?" one asked. Kai smiled. "There are no last dragons," he said. "So long as we remember them, we become them." And with that, he vanished into the wind. Some say he became the new wind guardian. Some say he found Asari beyond the stars. But all agree on one thing. The wind sings louder now, and it remembers his name, the Storm School. After Kai's passing, Mela founded a place called the Storm School. Children from every sky island came to learn the songs of the wind, the lore of the dragons, and how to ride the sky with respect and wonder. The school itself floated on a living cloud, anchored by a featherstone gifted by Asari. Every lesson began with silence, and every silence was filled with whispers of wings. The feather of flame. One quiet evening, a student named Toma found a feather glowing not with wind light, but fire. It hummed with power different from Asari's song. A new kind of dragon? Mela and her pupils studied it carefully. They realized that Asari had not been the only one left, just the last of her kind. The dragons of fire, stone, and thunder were awakening too. The age of renewal had begun. Whispers of the skybound. With Kai's legacy guiding them, Mela and her students set out to document the scattered ruins of the skybound age. In forgotten wind temples and buried storm caves, they found carvings, echoes, and songs long lost. Each discovery added to the living song book a growing collection of dragon music that rebalanced the winds. And sometimes, when they sang at night, the clouds themselves shimmered in harmony. The new windbearers, children who had never known Kai or seen a dragon, now soared through the skies with wings of song and memory. They whispered to whirlwinds. They redirected storms. They healed the air. Some say one child grew wings of mist. Another began to glow when near cloud reefs. All bore the mark of the wind-bearer. And when they flew, the wind sea sang. This is the end and the beginning,